For more, let's bring in our think tank to talk more about this. Barrett Sheridan, he covers Apple for Bloomberg Businessweek. And also on the phone, we're joined by influential music commentator Bob Lefsetz. He writes a widely read letter about the music industry called the Lefsetz Letter, appropriately enough. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Barrett, I want to start with you sitting right next to me here. I mean, how big a deal is the iCloud here? Is it as revolutionary as some of the physical products that Apple's introduced in the past?
I think it could very well be. It's for Apple, this is all about network effects. They've shown with their whole ecosystem of services, hardware, software, that they know network effects, and they know how to get people into their orbit and keep them there. And iCloud really cements that. Once people upload all their life onto an Apple server, their email, their photos, all the rest, there's that much less reason to leave and to go to an Android or BlackBerry or any other device.
I want to talk about the music offering in particular, the music part of the cloud. And what's really different about this is that you don't have to actually put all your music on the cloud. The cloud will sort of search for the music elsewhere, so it will take less time. Explain to us exactly how that's...
It's a really amazing coup on the part of Apple. Over the last couple months, you've had competing offerings from Amazon and from Google, who have their own kind of cloud music storage system. But there, you have to take all the tracks that you've already got on your hard drive and upload them to their cloud storage, which, if you've got thousands of tracks, can take literally days or maybe even weeks. Apple has figured out a way around that, where they just kind of scan your hard drive, see all the music that you've got on it, and then if you pay $25 a year, you can access that whenever you want, wherever you want. And that's because of deals that they've arranged with the labels that Amazon and Google could not.
Right. You know, Bob, I want to bring you on this since you're our music guy, resident music expert here. Does Apple win with this move, essentially rendering the other guys sort of obsolete?
Well, you have to look at it from three angles. You have to look at it from Apple, you have to look at it from Android and Amazon, and you have to look at it from the music companies. This is a huge win for Apple because it'll probably stanch defections to Android because no one else has these particular offerings. Amazon and Google's cloud services become a joke. If you go to music, you see very short-term thinking by the record labels. What they're saying is for a $150 million advance, which will go straight to their bottom line, they'll never share it with the acts. We are going to sell out our future. The telephone companies, the wireless companies have taught us the way you make money is 25 years ago, a cell phone was $1,000 and $1 a minute. They have 5-year-olds have cell phones now. Everyone's got a plan. So the key for the future of the music business is to get everybody paying a certain amount. To get them paying $25 a month is good, but it's only on Apple devices. It's going to kill all the competing subscription services. Very short-term thinking.
So what did Apple have to do to essentially get the music companies to sign away their future, if that's indeed your thesis here?
They had to pay them. You know, it's like, the old Eagles song, Life in the Fast Lane. Doctors say he's coming, but you got to bring him cash. Okay? It's all about the cash. That's how ridiculous these companies are. Okay, they shuffled the deck. The guy who's running Universal is now running Sony. This is the guy who says he's got no tech expertise. EMI is up for sale. Warner just literally sold. They say, oh, pay me $40 billion straight to my bottom line. Who cares about the future because I won't be here? So it's bad for everybody on a long-term basis.
Hey, Barrett, do we have any estimates as to how much Apple negotiated with the companies? What was the figure?
I've heard everything from $25 to $50 million per label, up to $150 million. These are, I think, going to be kind of advanced guarantees on future income. So when I sign up for iTunes Match, which is the name of this service, I pay $25 a month. Presumably, a lot of that is going to go to the labels, and that's going to kind of pay down this upfront payment that Apple's given to them. But it's kind of amazing. It's not just the labels that, over the long run or even the short run, are really impacted by today's announcements. You see lots of small software developers. Also, their services are being replicated by other kind of products that Apple's bringing on the market now with their releases today.
So what are... Sorry, go ahead, Bob.
We've learned time and time again in the internet sphere, only one company wins. There's one Amazon, there's one iTunes, so any competitor really has no chance once Apple gets a huge toehold. Once you can listen to everything you've purchased wherever you want, no one is going to pay a subscription fee. Or what we've learned now is it's de minimis. Fewer than 1 million people subscribe to all the competing services.
Hey, Bob, just real quickly here. I mean, this seems like an awesome thing for consumers.
Not really. Is your problem that you don't have access to music? Okay, all this means is instead of syncing your iPod or your iPhone or your iPad to your computer, it'll be pushed automatically. I mean, that's not that big a step. It's really about keeping people locked into the Apple world. It's cool, but it's not going to change your life much.
Okay, we were talking about the music portion in particular. Richard, I know you have an opinion on this. We just heard Bob say, you know, is this really that big of a deal to be able to do this? What do you think?
Oh, it's a tremendous step Apple's taken, because the data center to be able to deliver 5,000 songs to you that you rip from your own CDs, that's a big step. And the Rainmaker portion of this, I don't think has been given proper credit, because Steve Jobs, to get this kind of a deal from the music industry, is a big step for musical artists, for independents, to finally get some revenue from music streams, where they've been locked out of even the music download business with outdated models. So it's a Rainmaker and a cloud that has tremendous technology behind it.
Bob, I suspect you have something to say about that. Is this good for the smaller guys?
It's not good for the smaller guy. The deal is not as good with the independents as it is with the majors. And in terms of the acts aren't going to see $1 of this money. It's very short-sighted.
You know, guys, I want to ask you all to hang on for just 1 minute, because I want to listen to something that Steve Jobs had to say at the conference today about this offering. Listen in.
You might ask, why should I believe them? They're the ones that brought me Mobile Me. It wasn't our finest hour. Let me just say that. But we learned a lot.
And, you know, I think this brings up a good point. Barrett, let me ask you. I mean, Apple's had so many successes now that we tend to forget about their failures. But, I mean, is this a home run? Do we know that everybody's going to flock to this iCloud service? What are you hearing from folks?
There's no guarantee, and I think it will certainly appeal most to some of the early adopters who do have that unique problem of wanting to buy a song on their computer and listen to it on their phone, and not wanting to plug in the cord to connect the two via wire. You know, that's kind of a niche problem. But as more and more people do rely on their phones as their primary music device, and as they rely on music in the cloud to be able to listen to everywhere, I think you'll see more people kind of flock to, you know, want to take part in this cloud experience.
Richard, I'm curious what you think as well. I mean, there are people who are Apple devotees. I mean, everything is Apple. Is this going to bring new people into the Apple fold? Because that's really what the company needs, right?
Oh, I think it's going to bring a lot of people in. We do a lot of consumer surveys, and people have been converting their CDs and other family files, and they can't find the music. And now they can finally put it into a cloud. This is a much bigger step than the Amazon and Google offers so far. It would take weeks, possibly even months, to upload 5,000 songs successfully to Google and Amazon. Apple's going to take all that on, and they've cleared the rights on it, which is somewhat of a miracle. It's not perfect, as your other speaker said, but it's a big first step.
Bob, what do you think this does in terms of Amazon and Google's offerings?
Well, you have to go back to the Mobile Me point. Excerpt was leaked that talked all about Jobs berating his workers for doing a bad job on Mobile Me. So I would anticipate the service would work. I think very few people wanted it first. I think it's about bringing more people into the Apple ecosystem in the future. When you go into the store, this is how Apple succeeded in the last decade. They're saying anybody can buy a computer, but what about the software? So Android, yeah, you can buy it for $200 or even get it for free, but is it really going to work? As far as Google and Amazon, Google has an endless string of failed products. They bought Android. Anything developed inside here doesn't work. Amazon, they're in a much bigger business. Is this going to negatively impact them in cloud storage and music? Absolutely. Is it going to deeply affect their bottom line? No. They do call it Amazon. They want to reach everybody, but this is not a huge loss for them.
Richard, we've talked about the competition with Google and Amazon. I'm also curious about Research in Motion, because part of today's announcement also involved a new sort of iChat, instant message, if you will. The Instant BlackBerry is one of that product's biggest selling points. What does this do to RIM?
Oh, I think it's going to appease a lot of BlackBerry owners and enterprises that are struggling with mixes of iPhones and BlackBerries. But it's probably going to be, in the long run, a decimation of the ratio of RIM users. Bringing them into the camp is just going to expose them to more and more of the Apple services and how they work for messaging, and how the messaging and return and BCCs are all easier. So I think in the long run it's bad for RIM, but in the short term it's good for Apple and for RIM owners.
And Barrett, of course, it's not only the instant messaging portion of this. I mean, Apple said very directly today, we are going after enterprise customers a little more directly than it has said in the past. It's already tried to do that somewhat with the iPad. I mean, how much migration have we seen, and are folks expecting to continue to see?
I think we're at the very early stages of it. You see lots of corporate customers. It's mostly the employees that are driving in and asking their IT managers, why can't I use an iPhone with our corporate network? And you start to see already big companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, like testing out iPhone services, testing out iPads, and making sure it works with their system. And it's only going to be a matter of time before it's kind of the floodgates opening.
I have to do a very unscientific survey now and bring Bob back into this. Bob, obviously you deal with a lot of music industry folks. You deal with a lot of musicians. What do they use? Where do they come out on this whole device debate?
Every musician will only use an iPhone. The only person who uses a BlackBerry is someone who's addicted to email. Email works best with RIM because it goes through their server, but now because of the app world, and there's so many other things you can do on an iPhone, once iPhone gets the cloud right when it comes to email, it's going to kill RIM. I'll call it here now. I called it a year ago. RIM is completely toast.
Well, I think we'll end on that sad note, unless you guys disagree in any big way with RIM sort of falling behind here.
The burner's turned up, clearly. Toast, not yet, but it's getting warm.
Okay, Richard Doherty of Envisioneering, thank you so much for joining us. Bob Lefsetz on the phone with us from California, music commentator, and our own Barrett Sheridan in-house here from Bloomberg Businessweek. Gentlemen, thank you so much. Interesting discussion here. Well,